How are you? And welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. If I don't mix up the intro, I get bored, so it is what it is. Deal with it. Anyways, over here on my left, we have DZ representing his Los Angeles Chargers. Down directly below, we have Jack Kenna representing his Las Vegas Raiders. And we are nearing potentially finding a Kansas City fourth to join us. I have a couple DMs out there, some folks that I know. We will see if they can come in onto the show to give us an idea of what's going on with Andy Reid and crew. Some interesting stuff going on there based on preseason results and everything. So it'll be an interesting show, I'm sure, once we get the fourth, because there's going to be lots of chat about what's going on there. Let me tell you. But anyways, as we continue on with the show, we got 3 games to talk about in detail. We're going to go into what happened in our preseason game 2, some players that we were interested in, some players that we thought, let's just say, didn't do themselves any favors. And I'm sure we each have a list of those. And then there's been a few interesting updates and everything over the course of this week, including a breaking news update just before the show with regards to my Denver Broncos.
Hot off the press, man.
Hot off the press. Look, my team knows that I go live, and they kick me a solid, and they do it on the regular, so I have to give them some credit. Literally before our show, on multiple occasions, they've given Broncos news to me to kind of share with the masses, and this is, just par for the course. We have a pipeline of information to get to you today, and we will go from there. First things first, let's kick it off with DZ, since we started off last week's show with Jack and his Las Vegas Raiders. We'll start with the Chargers and how you guys did, and some interesting news and updates and all that good stuff.
Well, the battle for LA did not go as intended. It was a goofy game, man. Rams ended up coming out ahead 23-22, but believe it or not, Justin Herbert, going into his 6th season, made his first ever preseason game debut, and wanted to play preseason. Kind of wanted to shake off the rust, I guess. I guess with some of the new additions to the offense and maybe some of the shuffling they've had to do in the line with the departure of Rashawn Slater, I think he wanted to get out there and kind of see how this stuff's going to work. And wasn't bad. Justin himself looks like he's in midseason form, like awesome. Still some question marks on that right side. Now, Mekhi Becton didn't play in the game, but yesterday he did come back to practice after a 3-week absence. And today he actually was in on 11 on 11s, which was quite surprising. I thought they would take it even more slowly with him. Didn't see a brace on his knees or anything like that. So, fingers crossed, but it's looking good for him. And yeah, that's huge news. But that right side in the game was Jamari Sawyer at right guard and Pipkins at right tackle, who's probably going to be a starting right tackle week 1 against Kansas City Chiefs. And they made a blunder. There was a play blown up. Now, mind you guys, this is against the Rams number 2s. Rams didn't have any starters. They had depth pieces, and these are number 2s. And hats off to the Rams backup squad, because they played extremely well, and I'll get into that and why I'm not overreacting and treating it like a Super Bowl like some were. But there was a play they blew up. Justin, he went, 2 for 5, so pedestrian. There's a really poor throw by him towards QJ to kind of like to the flat, but maybe like, 5 yards. He just threw it at his feet, so there was a miscommunication there. But there was another bad throw, but not by Justin, really. I guess it depends who you ask, but he threw a deep bomb to QJ. And the cornerback, but during the production, you couldn't tell the cornerback made any play on this ball, but the cornerback fingertip the ball or something. QJ went up. Why they keep doing this, and it's going into his 3rd year, thinking that he's an over-the-shoulder kind of guy. which he's shown that he's not that guy, mind F's me. My brain is just like, why are you doing this? But whatever. QJ bobbles the ball, doesn't have the ball, and then there's one of their safeties just chin or lowers his crown right into his chest, and it looks like he catches the bottom of his helmet and just looks like he got laid out in the air. And then if anybody's familiar with SoFi, that's concrete under that fake grass. So he got knocked out. He went into, it looked like he did a little bit of fencing posture, and wasn't a pretty sight, man. Kind of scary, especially in a preseason game, seeing a dude get knocked out like that. But he got up. I guess he was aware where he was at. He was back to the facility the next day, so he's in the NFL concussion protocol. But other than that, Justin made a really good throw to KLS, Keandre Lambert-Smith, our 5th-round rookie, man. Like, I can't say enough about these new young wide receivers they brought into LA. Trey Harris and KLS. KLS had 66 yards. Trey Harris was, I think he got 85 yards and had this like beautiful toe-tapping 34-yard bomb from Trey Lance. But both, for the Charger fans, they were getting worried about Trey Harris because we hadn't seen him. And I think there's a reason for that. And it kind of carried over into this game with the backups. The backup line for the Chargers is absolute dog crap. It is so bad. When Slater got hurt, they reshuffled this line, and they had to essentially promote 2 backups to that starting offensive line, which really screwed up the second and third string. And they had to bring in some guys for some injuries, and it was dog crap. And Ortiz has got to be on the phone and got to figure this out. You've got to get better guys back there because you've got 1 game left, and I'm sure you're going to want to get a better look at the running backs. I don't want to get a better look because I kind of know who I think should make the team, but there was like no running game in this game against the Rams. Rams did really good. Their defensive line, their second team defense was really good. I mean, they held the first team offense to a field goal. So congratulations to them. And then their second team offense marched down the field and scored a touchdown on our first team defense. So embarrassing for them. And it's kind of like a wake up call. Like, hey, you guys probably thought you'd go in there and easily handle, but Stetson Bennett was, 324 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, which was really silly. One of our UDFA D tackles, T-Rod Edwards, let's see if I've got my notes, 6'2", 305, went into coverage and intercepted him and trucked him while he was running back trying to score a touchdown, which would have been absolutely hilarious. But overall, the game was, like I said, it was a silly, wacky game. The Rams kept Stetson Bennett in the whole time. I maybe it has to do with something with their quarterback depth or whatever. And it kind of made me feel like watching the way the Rams, construct plays or how they execute them. I was a little envious because, yeah, Max, whatever.
It's true, but
yeah, I mean, I know where Max is going to line up. He's going to line up on Trey Pipkins, but
yeah, he usually goes after the right tackle the majority of the time.
Well, how'd that go last year against Joe Alt? Now Joe Alt's going over
Joe
the side.
Alt, he's a
Damn
beast. That was, dude, Joe Alt did a fantastic job. There was 11 plays against him, and Alt stopped Max on all 11. So, yeah.
Yeah, but he is licking his chops against Pipkins because Pipkins is a average pass blocker, but that's about it. Yeah, so the Rams, I'm giving hats off. They treated this game way more importantly than I think the Chargers first team did. And, there were some starters on the first team, Dave Mack, Derwin James, some other guys, they didn't play. But the backups came in, and then it kind of settled down, and it started looking more like a normal preseason game. And there was some good plays. Another UDFA little white boy, they call the Grim Reaper. He had a 66-yard punt return, which was really cool to see. Rocket Sanders, like I said, the running game wasn't that good, but on the goal line, he had a 1-yard touchdown, so that's good to see from him. Let's see, what other notes did I have? There were some guys. Junior Colson kind of had a better game, and I guess we can talk about some players later on in the show, but he had a better game than he's had in the last 2 preseason games that we had. And remember, he was our 3rd-round pick last season who dealt with injuries, and that was like my guy. I was calling him to have a breakout year this year, and I'm already regretting that right now because we have a UDFA from Syracuse that is outplaying him, in the name of Marlo Wax. I think I mentioned him last week. We've got 2 backup edge guys that are outplaying our 4th-round pick this year. One of our edge guys, and yeah, so this team's going to have a lot of questions coming up to cuts following our finale in the preseason against the Niners. But yeah, man, it was a good game and good game, and Stetson Bennett made some hell of plays, and the Rams got themselves a really good backup in Stetson Bennett.
Well, I got a question for you guys. So, over the years, it used to be when they do the cuts, and the cuts are coming, on August 26th. So it's coming up pretty quick. And they used to do it in tiers. You got to get rid of so many guys this way, and then by this date and this date. Now it's all of them.
Yeah,
all of them at once. I think I might. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm like, do I like that? Do I dislike that? It's like.
Do you think they staggered it because
it's going to be it's going to make it really exciting, though.
Jack, do you think I think it was staggered because they had 4 preseason games, right? And now since it's 3, they just do one whole cut.
3. I mean, that definitely could be. I mean, but I think that's going to be like, the next draft day, right? We all look forward to the draft. Yeah. So all these GMs and assistant GMs, they're going to be looking at all these players. You got to figure, you got 40, you can only have 90 on the roster. You got to get down to 53, not counting international players. It's going to be like a whole nother draft. People are just going to be flying all over the place.
Yeah, and then you got 17 for your practice squad. So, yeah, there's some guys that, like I was kind of mentioning, there's some names that I've seen ball out in preseason that I want to see make this roster, but through front office politics, they probably won't. And they're probably going to, they'll probably try to sign them to the practice squad. And if other teams have been paying attention, they're going to get snatched. They'll get snatched right up. And there's a couple guys that if I see them go on the practice squad, I know for sure they're getting taken. And it's going to really upset me but it's at the same time, do you cut your 4th-round pick? You know what I mean? Do you cut a guy like that? Who's got the cojones to do that? I don't think many GMs really do. I mean, some probably do, but I don't know if Ortiz does.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it's going to be with the players that are more ready now to go to give you a better shot versus, that player that needs more development but has a much higher upside. That's where it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting to see what, these GMs do.
Yeah. And then, kind of interesting practice note is the Chargers traded for Taylor Heineke last year as a backup quarterback. They traded for him. And no question, Trey Lance has taken that number 2 just due to his play in the preseason. I mean, he's a dual threat guy. He's looked much better in LA than he has, in my opinion, in any previous stop he's been with. And, he's come in when Heineke's gone out and the energy picks up with the whole team and just can use his legs and makes throws I don't want to say like any better than Heineke, but it seems like he's more dialed in with his receivers. So, and then Heineke these last 2 days has been essentially held out of practice. Like he hasn't done anything. So I'm like, are they fixing to trade him? I've got a feeling that Ortiz, the GM for the Chargers, is looking to gain some draft capital, kind of like what Richie's Broncos did, because we only have 6 picks going into next year. So I'm thinking that they're looking to probably get some sort of draft capital or make some sort of trade for a player, maybe another depth lineman or something like that, or a edge guy. Another thing is, I was talking about Marlo Wax. The Chargers in the offseason signed a guy by the name of Delshon Phillips, who has been a special teams ace. He was with the Houston Texans, I believe the Miami Dolphins. I forget which team we got him from last, in the offseason. But, Guam. What's up,
Hey,
Guam?
welcome aboard. Pillaging Just for Fun. The
And
nation.
he has just come back to practice after being gone all through the whole camp. And that's gonna, with that linebacker room, it's a good and bad problem. So I think this we'll probably talk about it later on, but this last preseason game is going to be pivotal, I guess, for the Chargers, because there's some guys that need to put up or shut up, because I haven't seen squat from some of these guys in preseason, and that's Kyle Kennard and Junior Colson and some other guys like that.
So a couple things in preseason to maybe make you feel better. I don't know. But sometimes your guys are told not to do certain things in terms of playing a certain way, depending on what your scheme is and that sort of thing. So as an example, on the defensive side of the ball, sometimes the guys are told, only stay in your lane. Like, you're here, the guy beside you is expected to pick up the guy if he crosses the field or something, right?
Sure.
Whereas come standard game day or whatever, you would obviously play like whether it be man or zone man or whatever. And so that would not actually happen. So not trying to heap praise at all on the Chargers, because I'm a Broncos fan, so why the hell would I do that? But at the same time, trying to talk you off the ledge a little bit in the fact that sometimes they're looking like at the bigger picture when they're looking at guys. Yeah. And so just, keep that in mind when you're watching.
I'm glad you brought that up, because after the game, I know there's people who treat these preseason games like they want to win them all. Like, yeah, we didn't win, and I'm like, it's a preseason game, effing relax. And they're like, Harbaugh's game management today was, I'm seeing tweets by, I don't know these people's ages. I'm guessing they're kids, or I hope they're not grown adults, but they're like, Harbaugh's game management was so bad at the end of the game. I'm like, he doesn't need to kneel the ball or run this out. He wants to see these guys execute. They need to get tape on these dudes, man. They're auditioning for this team and other teams, and there's so much to see. Like, so screw you.
So
like,
can I jump in on the game management part?
Yeah.
So for those guys there who are making comments like that, and for anyone who wants to try to harp on your team's coach for playing a certain way, in terms of at the end of the game, the middle of the game, or why did he go for it on 4th and 6? Like, who the hell does that? Like, other things like that. So again, these games don't matter. They do not count towards your record. They don't go towards the record books. They don't do any of that kind of stuff. So coaches now, like Harbaugh and
Sean
and Pete Carroll and Andy Reid and I'm referring to these veteran head coaches. They're looking at the sample size that they have available to them, and they're saying, I need to see certain things in order for me to make decisions.
Yeah.
And one of the things, as an example for the Chargers fans that want to slander your coach, your coach wants to get the hell off the field.
I mean,
Like
something.
you guys have lost your starting right tackle, or sorry, left tackle. Sorry, starting left tackle, and you guys have a boatload of other injuries on your team that you're still trying to work through. And so your coach is looking at it from the fact of, why would I want to manage the back end of the game that I'm not winning to prolong the potential for injury for my team?
Well, they were winning the game. That was kind of the thing.
Sure, but the thing is that the game doesn't matter. So the whole point is, I want this thing to be over as fast as possible.
Right.
I think they just wanted to get out there with what you kind of said, is with no more injuries. You know what I mean? Because one of our starting safeties, Lohi Gilman, banged himself out of the game as well. Luckily, we have a deep safety room. But I was watching him play. I was like questioning, like, what are you doing, Alohi? Like, just reckless abandonment, coming in like a piss missile, you know, something that he's really not set up to do. But I'm sure he's okay, but they've taken him out. And kind of like a term Charger fans are familiar with, especially with this Harbaugh regime, is abundance of caution. That's like if we hear that, we're like, oh, Jesus, here we go, because they will literally baby these guys, and we won't see them for a effing week. But yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I've seen, like, I get it, man. I was young too. You know, sometimes you want to win all the games, but you know, in the back of my head, I'm also thinking, like, no undefeated team in preseason has ever made it to the Super Bowl. And am I saying that the Chargers are going to the Super Bowl? No. I'm just saying, like, look, sometimes it's not good to win all your preseason games. Like, you know, and I kind of liked that that Rams second team defense and second team offense kind of gave it to them a little bit. It makes me go, like, you know, when they go in that film room, they're pissed off. They're like, okay, you know, we've got to play a lot better than we did. And you know, they know that. They're all vets. And, you know, we've got what, 16 days, 15 or 16 days until they kick off in Brazil. So, you know, it's coming sooner than later.
Yep.
I will admit, though, you know, for the last game, selfishly, you know, again, it doesn't matter win or lose in reality, but selfishly, so I don't have to hear it from my friends, you know, then my phone starts blowing up and, you know, you see, like, you know, gifts and just, you know, banter, you know, ripping on your team. It's like, I'd rather have, you know, the opportunity to do that to them versus them doing that to me. So yeah, that's really selfish, just as a person, just based on my fan base, which all of them are Niner fans.
I mean, you're close to the Bay Area, essentially. I mean, I don't know, Sacramento, right?
Yeah.
But
so Sac's like an hour and a half to where I grew up in Concord, Walnut Creek. So,
well, I mean, Jack, it's just, you know, your standard fan base in terms of your, you know, your real fandom is just, you know, coming out in the fact that your friends are all Niners fans, and so that just says, you know, that you're actually a Niners fan. You're just wearing Raiders gear for the show. Right?
Oh no, my whole family was Niner fans. So, you know, like I said, when I was a kid, I would be on the small TV in the other room. My dad would be on the big TV, and I'll never forget, he had a Niner bell. And every time, you know, this is in, you know, the 90s, and you would hear that bell just ringing all the time. And then with the field goal, it would just be a quick ding ding. And I'm sitting there, my team's getting smoked. His team is kicking butt. What's up, Victory Lap? And so it's like, yeah, I got sick of that thing. So when he passed away, and again, it was both my mom and dad, grandparents on both sides, and my brother and my sister, and I am the black sheep of the family. I'm the only one that
what'd you do with the bell?
I buried it with them, so I don't ever have to hear it again.
There you go.
We love that. You love that bell. And I'm like, you take it with you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You don't have to hear that god awful thing anymore.
Right.
Well, look, I mean, you know, there'll be some that'll say that was like a cop out, but I think at the end of the day, when that's the memory that you have, like, as in like the long standing memory that, like, is like kind of the staple, like it's no different than when like warriors were buried with their swords, or some variation of that, right? Which is,
True.
if that is one of the many things that you actually identified with your dad, and it's quite common for you to kind of collect those important things to make sure that your loved ones kind of pass on and are buried with those things. I think that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, same.
I think that's a cool thing.
Thank
So anyways, so either way, you kind of wish you'd done a little bit more in the game. You wish you saw more in the game, from what I gather. And now the question is going to be, what we'll talk about this later in the show, but like, what do you need to see and from who moving forward?
Yeah.
But before we move on, though, I'd like actual names from you. So let's give us the the winners, if you will, out of the game from the Chargers.
Oh, that's definitely going to be Keandre Lambert-Smith, Trey Harris, the two, young additions to this for Justin Herbert. Aronde Gadsden's been also awesome. Also, this is another thing. The refs are not throwing any laundry in that game. So that QJ hit, like, I love physical football. Don't get me wrong. I love it, man. Like, all about it. Like, but if there was another guy by the name of Derwin James who made the hit on QJ, they would have banned him. He would have been suspended for games and fined like $50,000. But since this was some no-name Ram trying to make the 53, they didn't throw a flag, and everybody else thought it should have been a flag. And like at first, I was like, "What? No way!" That that was, he put his shoulder in his chest. It wasn't. But also, Ronnie Gadsden, caught a touchdown in the end zone, and they made another good play, and it was like headhunting season for the Rams. So, look, they want to play like that. That's fine. I don't really mind it. I like physical ball, but it was like borderline for me. But so I'll say the winners, Trey Lance. I don't see how he doesn't make it in the 53 as a backup. The young weapons and some of the depth D linemen guys did really well, but I'll put it in groups. Those are the winners, and then the losers are anybody that was on that offensive line. They were just absolute dog crap. And another one would probably have to be losers. It would probably have to be, it'd just be the offensive line, because I felt like, even though the score doesn't show it, the second and third defense and weapons wise, they all played really well. It's just that offensive line for me that is killing it for everybody else on the lower teams, for the second and third guys.
So I will take the reins from here, and we will blast right into my Denver Broncos and our preseason win over the Arizona Cardinals. Now, there was a mutual agreement amongst both teams that the vast majority, if not all, starters would not play in this game. Both teams largely honored that particular agreement. So, for example, like Evan Ingram played for a couple snaps, RJ Harvey played for a couple snaps, but overall, like in terms of what you saw, you were basically dealing with rookies, and you were dealing with guys that were typically seen as depth players on the team, as in not your guaranteed starter. So both coaches, to their credit, honored the agreement, if you will. One coach wasn't like, kind of doing one of these and then played all the starters to make the other coach look like like he didn't know what he was doing, sort of thing. Overall, I think we saw some pretty good play from my Denver Broncos. I had a few issues, as I always do, because I believe that basically critical thinking and critiquing your team is an important thing, because I think far too many are coming out of this preseason for my Denver Broncos with rose-colored glasses. I think we need to be honest and truthful with ourselves. A few things that I did note that I think need to be called out. We continue to see an issue with the interior of the offensive line, especially in the second team and first team offensive line in terms of last preseason and this preseason. Particularly in this game, the weak spot was one side of the guards, and that got really bad when Nick G ended up getting knocked out. It's like Nick Gargulo or whatever the heck it is. Nick G, as far as I'm concerned, that's all you're getting out of me for his last name. He has really taken some leaps forward. He started to get much better in the run blocking, pass blocking as well. He was ascending actually as a player, as a depth guy for my Denver Broncos on the offensive line. He just absolutely tore the crap out of his knee and stuff. And it's awful to hear that and see that kind of stuff, because by all accounts, he was doing everything the right way and was starting to ladder up, which is what you want to see from your draft picks. You want them to develop. And then behind him, we saw kind of like mediocre depth guys. And so what I'm really looking to start seeing in the upcoming games is to start seeing guys step up. Like I want to see guys start separating themselves to start showing that they can actually, elevate with the rest of the team. In terms of plays and whatnot, I mean, I think it's undeniable Jarrett Stidham is arguably probably a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. And if you look at his 2 games and stats, like he's killed it. Like, I mean, absolutely killed it. Like he's complete command and control. He understands what he's doing. He's learned the playbook. He owns the playbook. He's commanding the offense. He's extending plays. He's directing guys in terms of what to do. He's got the respect of the players. Basically, all the things that Jack last year wished he had in a quarterback, we have in Jarrett Stidham.
Right. Losing to you guys hurt, I will say that. I mean, you guys offered him a 2-year, $10 million contract, and he's worth all the money on that.
Yeah. Breaking
news, Chiefs just got on the trade train and traded Sky Moore to the 49ers in a 6 and 7 pick swap.
Okay.
That's kind of along the lines with our division, so just saw that right now.
Yep. And so anyways, I just think that just generally speaking, Stidham, I mean, if you actually, I know that you guys don't always have the time to watch like the entirety of the Broncos game and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, it is kind of undeniable when you see the way Stidham is playing. You think a starter's playing and it's a backup. Like you truly think that it's a starter playing in the NFL. And then you realize that that's actually our second string quarterback rather than the starter. So I think all the credit in the world has to go with Stidham to think highly of himself, state it externally, but ultimately when it comes to like the team atmosphere and what he's doing, he's really owning the backup role and saying no one's even coming close. And, credit where credit's due, good for him. He's definitely earned himself, I think, another look as a starter in the league. And he's a dark horse potential big time trade candidate, like in terms of like, a guy that you could starting to see the 3rd and 2nd round kind of draft pick kind of capital coming up the bench, if you will. Because if you're looking at a true backup quarterback or a guy that could potentially step into a starting role for other teams, there's a couple out there that are really lacking in the quarterback position. Stidham could be a guy that comes, that teams come knocking on the Broncos for.
I mean, seems like we've got a couple, like your team and my team have these guys, these second string quarterbacks that could easily, I don't want to say easily because everybody's seen Trey Lance, but it's like, look like they can go start for other teams. And I'm wondering, are they benefiting from the systems that they're in right now? And like,
they certainly are. Yes. They certainly are. But then my comment becomes, I think we've said this multiple times on the show, and I see no reason why not to stay consistent on this because I actually believe it, which is if you see a guy do really well in a certain system and he's your quarterback and you want him to be your starting quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of like a Trey Lance, I'm thinking of a Jared Stidham, I'm thinking of some other guys that are kind of admittedly in the lower tier of the starters, maybe lower to, lower middle tier of starters potentially in terms of caliber in the league. If you go ahead and acquire a quarterback like that who has done very well in a specific system from a specific team, you'd have to be an idiot to not adapt your scheme to fit what they're good at.
Sure.
And if you choose not to, the problem is not with the quarterback you acquired. The problem is with you as a franchise and a team.
Yeah.
Because that's just dumb. Like you're literally just doing stupid things. And
I say that, Richie,
yeah.
especially for the Trey Lance stuff, is because Greg Roman, like his whole offense kind of like works really well with a dual threat guy. So I was like, when you talk about Stidham, that's pretty good because I know Peyton's offense can be quite complex, right?
Oh yeah.
And so and then we're seeing success with Lance in this offense and Greg Roman's, which has kind of been known, his best year was, I believe, 2019 with Lamar, right? So we all know who Lamar is, but when he was in San Francisco. So I'm like, man, if they do trade him, it's like, how are these teams going to utilize him? But I think Stidham, if he can pick up a complex offense like Peyton's offense, I mean, it looks like he can do well anywhere essentially.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, you look at his stats: 16 to 23, 240 yards, 2 TDs. That looks great. Even your backup after him, Sam Ellinger, 14 to 16 for 162 yards. I mean, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. A nice problem to have.
Yeah.
We've stacked on draft picks. We've stacked on hitting on draft picks. We've stacked on hitting on free agents. It is a wonderful problem to have, and one that my Broncos have not had in probably 9 years almost.
People don't realize these backup quarterbacks help your team.
Oh, they do.
Help
Yeah.
so much. We've had trash quarterbacks by the name of Easton Stick and whoever else has been on this team for years, and they don't help your scout. They don't help your scout offense. They don't help your defense like some of these upper echelon backups like a Stidham does, and maybe Trey Lance and Taylor Heineke. But Taylor Heineke just hasn't had a good preseason. But not saying he's not a good quarterback, because we saw it in Washington when he was with the Commanders. But, all right, I'll leave it at that.
Hey, Matt, that's a possibility. You never know who for Stiddy being traded. So I'm the opposite way for my team. I'm looking, at Aiden O'Connell, and he's doing all the Aiden O'Connell stuff. It's like, okay, dude, you're in your 3rd year in the league, and you were a starter for a long period of time, and you're playing against backups. And granted, you got backup, everything helping you out, but you have starting experience, and you are just not showing it. So It's like Cam Miller also came out in this last game, didn't play like the first game. The Niners defense, it's actually it seemed like they're kind of deep, but both my quarterbacks were kind of at that point, and Matt Marinovich is talking about, hey, trade him and get like a Jameis Winston, or I've even heard rumors of the Tony Richardson, the Colts quarterback.
Anthony
Richardson. Yeah. It's just, to let him sit and learn for a couple years versus having to put out there as a starter. Because I think, us Raider fans, we've seen kind of the ceiling and the floor with our quarterback, and he's definitely not meant to be a starting quarterback. I mean, when you go a whole season and you can't break like 20 points for a game. So, yeah, I think we've seen, the best and the worst, and we know what we got with him. So
you think
I hope
it's
this
just
next game.
Chip Kelly's offense might be too crazy for him to pick up?
I just think he's just immobile.
There you go.
And when we get to my side, I think it's also partially the offensive line that's not helping him really.
Yeah, well, an immobile quarterback will not be able to make plays with an offensive line that is incapable of blocking unless they are incredibly decisive with throwing the ball, as in anticipatory throws.
Yeah.
So there is that as well. So quickly back to some of my winners. I guess I'll just do a quick highlight reel, just generally speaking, just in terms of what we saw from the game. We ran the ball fairly well, but did not run the ball particularly well right up the middle. We had a couple plays, but not many. Most of them were on either the outside or right between the tackle and the guard. So it was not necessarily the interior offensive line that was typically doing the thing. It was generally the tackles that were doing the dirty work to kind of open those plays, and the tight ends. We have some pretty well-versed tight ends on my Denver Broncos in terms of blocking, and I'm going to get into some of those guys that I was actually quite impressed with. And Jack, I hate to be the bearer of bad news for you, my man.
I saw it. I looked it up. Estimate nine touches for 22 yards. Oh my God.
So
he's just not meant for your team.
Gone.
Dude literally looks like he's running with ankle weights on. And
that's
I'm
Zamir White doing the same thing.
As much as I liked some of the things that I saw from Estime in the early stages of his first year in the league, he is not doing well. Like, he's just not.
He looks slow too, man. Like, well, you just said it, the ankle weights. I mean,
yeah.
Comparatively to your other running backs you guys got, he just looks. It's like polar opposite, man.
Yeah. So, at this point here, I'm willing to go all the way there and say, Buddy Boy's getting cut. And for you to get cut as a second-year running back after being drafted in the 5th round by the team that has you, like, that takes a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that takes a lot, especially after they made the roster the first year. Right? They made the roster the first year in their rookie year, and then they basically are so subpar in their second year that they are just basically kicked to the curb.
I don't know. That kind of shows me your organization brought in some some really good talent, like some great competition.
And I also see, they didn't bring him onto the playoff roster, so he had to be showing that, in year number 1 when you're not even making a playoff roster.
He was showing that at the end of last season, but at the beginning of last season, he had a lot more burst. I'm beginning to wonder if Estime's issue is not so much maybe durability, but the longevity. I'm wondering if he's one of those guys that with the grind of the NFL, his body just can't take it.
Come down to sea level somewhere. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and I would actually be quite curious. And you mentioned that, DZ, but I was thinking this just yesterday. I wonder if he kicks out to Arizona, one of the LA teams.
You can stay away from mine.
Maybe even like one of the New York teams kind of thing, where it's kind of like at least cooler weather, but they have like an oxygen-rich environment.
Sure.
Or even like a Tennessee or something like that. Somewhere where the air isn't thinner and maybe isn't taking as big a toll on his body.
I can see that.
That can be.
wondering.
I will admit it's no joke living in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Living in Colorado Springs, which is about an hour and a half, south from Denver, and you would walk up the stairs. I was at 72 to 7,300 feet, and you just walk up the stairs, and you're like, "Whoa, where's the air, man?" I mean, you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm going to go through the those that I thought that played a great game. Troy Franklin, wide receiver, second year. The guy's killing it this year. He has definitely turned that corner. He has improved. He's not dropping the ball. He's running the routes well. He is doing the little things that you want to see out of a wide receiver, unlike QJ, who is figuring out things and all that kind of stuff. So you have Troy Franklin, who's really, doing what you want to see out of a wide receiver, showing those progression steps, right? Mm-hmm. We also have I'm gonna end off with a guy on the offensive side of the ball here. We have Jaquan Davis, who again looked great despite a hand injury. He's catching the ball well, running great routes, showing great speed, showing the willingness to try to block even if he's hurt, showing the willingness to play even though he's hurt. And I thought he's a UDFA that's going to be hard for the Broncos, I think, to pass through waiver wires, because I think there's going to be simply too many teams that are wide receiver deficient that are going to say, we just need someone. Like
we just saw the Niners, one of the most deficient wide receiver teams right now, make a trade for Sky Moore, who is like
a nobody. He's a nobody. Yeah.
Yes, he's got a cool name. That's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then obviously I mentioned Jarrett Stidham. He had like he's had a heck of a. I mean, his preseason games this year have been unreal. And then Tyler Bidet. Did that guy ever have himself a second game?
It's good.
I mean, that guy is killing it.
Heck of a stable up in Denver.
And, he's a guy that everyone at the beginning of the season, except for me, because I've been on the Tyler Bidet train since the get-go, I was saying, no, like that guy.
I don't know, almost like the way you said that, you've been on the Bidet train. I mean, that sounds like you're sitting on something, dude.
Might as well just call him Tyler Batty, because he's pretty badass.
Yeah, so Tyler Batty is killing it. He really is. He can pass pro, he can run, he can pass catch. He can do basically all three phases of the running back kind of game, if you will. He can do all three and at a high level. It is honestly, if he does not make the 53-man roster, someone has made an error, and there's no way he's not getting picked up this year.
No, I could see him being way faster than what Estime would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I want to just bring up an honorable mention in the running back room, and that is Watson, Blake Watson. He's having himself a preseason as well, where he's kind of showing that he's a more versatile version of Jaleel McLaughlin. He's again showing that he can pass pro a little bit, maybe not as well as say a Tyler Batty or even some of the other bigger running backs, but he's showing that he can do it. And he's also got wheels. He's also got the kind of the shimmy shake to kind of get through the holes and get himself open. Just all the things that you're looking for from a high quality running back.
I feel like he's gone under the radar, Richie. Watson.
Well, I'm happy with that, because if he can go under the radar and make it on our practice squad, I'm totally cool with that.
I'm just saying I'm
not
super familiar with him, and I haven't heard much. But if you guys are seeing something good out of him,
he's a really, really good player. And then one guy I do want to bring forward. He had a heck of a game and made one bad play at the end of the game. But if you actually look at the body of work that he had in the last two preseason games, and that's Caden Prescorn. He is a UFL tight end that came into our team as kind of like a tryout walk-on guy from the UFL. He is just a well-rounded tight end. He's a guy that reminds me of a Adam Troutman, Nate Adkins, and of course, my guy who used to be with the Dolphins or is with the Dolphins, the tight end that used to play for my Denver Broncos. You're looking for those well-rounded tight ends that can kind of play kind of do all three things well. You want them to inline block. The best of the tight ends can also play that fullback position, because then they can kind of go back and be a lead blocker for you. And then you want the guy to be able to pass catch. And this guy here in Caden Prescorn is legit, in my opinion. In fact, so much so, he has modified my 53-man roster prediction, where I think that he is making the 53-man roster. Just one other thing that I did want to bring up, because I had it in my notes to bring up on the show today. The NFL has made a rule change this year, and it's kind of gone under the radar, and I don't know why other folks aren't talking about it. So I figured I'd bring it up.
Oh, yeah.
So that the fans can absorb this as they go into roster cuts, which are about to come up, as we just said in the green room there, Jack, on the 26th, which is Tuesday of next week. This year is the first year where teams can designate as part of their roster cuts 2 players to be on short-term IR. Now,
okay.
Now, why is this such a big deal?
Oh, interesting.
It's going to be huge.
Why is this such a big deal? This is massive, okay? And I don't think people truly understand it, because what it allows you to do is designate 2 players to immediately go to short-term IR, but then you're not risking 2 other players for being exposed to waiver wires or having to get creative with who you cut and when you cut them. Right? And so I actually think it's low-key going to be one of the more interesting elements that we're going to see as part of the 53-man roster cutdowns with regards to that rule change. Something I wanted to announce.
Do we know the time? Did you say the time for short-term IR? Like
4 weeks.
Okay, that's so short-term is just 4 weeks essentially.
4 weeks.
The same on that aspect, like not having little dudes.
Right. So it's 4 weeks. So you go 4 weeks on IR, and then you can then bring them back for the 21-day window. And then they either are back on the field and you have to cut someone to bring them back on the 53, or they end up going on long-term IR. Okay. So
that is an interesting change.
I thought that was something that the fans of the show would be interested in. It's kind of the football geek in me that is really important that kind of, be broadcast out, because you got to change your mental math now in terms of how the rosters are going to be compiled, because you're no longer going to potentially see the vested vet get cut to make room for the rookie, and so on and so forth. You're going to see the guy get immediately designated to short-term IR, and then you're going to have more strategic moves made in terms of who's actually going to make your 53, as opposed to, the next day guys get cut and then the guy gets brought back, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm going to quickly go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, because we're talking rule changes. So have you guys seen the Hawkeye yet in either one of your games?
Yeah. Are you talking about the ball thing?
Yeah, it's like no longer will the chain gang go out there. It's like wherever the ref places the ball, they use their 8 different camera angles or something to measure, if you got a line of gain or if you didn't get a line of gain. So I think that's just an interesting change too.
Yeah,
I agree. Definitely. My only thing that I want to see added is I want it mapped out onto the field live on air. Like, I want, as a fan, for them to be like, we have the technology and that's the line of gain, and map it out over top of the play as to where the Hawkeye says this is where the ball was. And this is actually an example of where I think technology.
I agree.
This is an example of where I kind of agree that technology is well suited. I think this is exactly what helps the game of football to be more fair, where you don't get these idiotic line of gain calls but the NFL needs to take just that next step to be fully transparent as to where that line of game was shown on the actual game footage for
I thought there was a sensor in the ball. I thought that's what
there is. There's a sensor in the ball, but then there's also cameras that are it's all overlaid as part of what they call the Hawkeye system.
Okay.
And so it's a combination of 2 different things, or 9 different things if you want to be technical.
So the only time I saw it was during the Hall of Fame game, but you guys are saying you saw it in your game. So
no, it's all part of preseason games, and they're leveraging it to basically put it into practice. And then realistically, honestly, if we're going to be quite frank, they're going to be bringing that in as a permanent fixture to the NFL, I think, come next year in the offseason. So we can expect to see that being the norm.
And I agree with you 100%, Richie. It should be where we all get to see it. So, like, when they bring the chains out, we get to see it. Not just, it could be at some point in time, we're going to be out. Someone's going to be like, you know what? That's not where the ball should have been. And this game is rigged, so it does
Yeah.
need to be shown to all the NFL fans that are out there.
I want it overlaid on screen so that everyone knows where the system showed and all that kind of. I think that makes total sense and certainly is the right way to go about it. I do want to quickly go through my rest of awesome players, and they are all on defense. I'm going to blast through them quickly, and then I'm going to go to my oh no, we suck again players that are coming up shortly thereafter. So we have Jonah Ellis, who hot take of mine, and I will go on record to say that I had said this before, and then another fellow Bronco broadcaster announced this on his show as well. So we are in violent agreement, as they say. I think Jonah Ellis, in the way that he is playing, is making it difficult for my Denver Broncos to re-sign Nick Bonito.
Wow.
Hear me out.
That's a wild take.
Hear me out.
That's a big one.
You need a left tackle and a right tackle and potentially an interior rushing D lineman to truly make your roster for my Denver Broncos a perennial deep playoff team for the next 3 to 5 years, right? That's really what we're missing as a Denver Broncos roster right now. Garrett Bowles is serviceable, but he's not amazing. McGlinchey is hurt at the best of times. And even when he is healthy, he gets beat in certain types of plays and styles of plays because he's aging. And then we don't really have that interior kind of push up the center of the defensive line. We seem to have kind of pressure unilaterally across my Broncos defensive line, but we don't have like that one or two kind of interior D-line push that kind of constantly gets into the backfield on a regular basis as like a D tackle or nose tackle in the more traditional sense. And so those guys, as we've talked about multiple times on the show, left tackle, right tackle, interior rushing D tackle, top 10 picks, right? Like we can all kind of agree those are the kind of the best of the best.
I don't know. We might have Chargers might have got a really good one in the third round with Jamari Caldwell.
Right, but the fact remains is that that's an outlier, not the that's an outlier, not the norm, right? And so you might get a couple guys that are like a Caldwell, but generally speaking, the trenches, the guys are generally speaking found in
top. It's you got to be in that
10,
first round.
That first kind of upper echelon of the first round. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal with Nick Bonito. He's had 1 year of breakout play, right? 1 year. And he hasn't stacked a second year yet. So the question is, are you going to get more of what you got last year, or are you going to get a bit of a dip in play? I don't think he's going to dip.
No, I don't.
But here's the question, though. If you need the 3 top players coming into 2026, and you have a trade player who's going to be in need of a contract, or otherwise you need to pay $30 million a year, and you have 2 to 3 guys as depth guys that at least one of those guys, in my opinion, will likely get you 80% of Bonito's productivity in Jonah Ellis. Is it worth spending the 30 or 25 million, or is it to your benefit to try to use him as a trade player and get, some high trade capital?
I don't know. It seems like you guys' team. I mean, I know you got some big contracts. Like, I've seen some Bronco fans regretting that paying for Cortland Sutton with some of these other guys balling out, because then you're like, okay, there's another one. So you're not the first. People are like, can we get a refund? And because of, some of the other guys that you're seeing, you're like, oh wow. But
especially because we're talking about how deep the wide receiver room is, it's like right there. I agree, DZ.
Yeah, but then go back to Nick Bonito, like, that rush and cover kind of go together, right? That's that term. And I can only see him ascending this year, especially with the secondary and linebacker you guys have up in Denver. So I don't know, man. I know you're making a case for the money, but I think that's a kind of a guy that you keep.
It's not just money, though.
Or cap space.
It's money compared to the production deficit, right? So it's like the point being is like, okay,
but you don't know that your guy can do what Benito can do.
Well, Benito and Ellis are both great run blockers.
Okay.
And Ellis had a heck of Ellis in his rookie season was named to the all-rookie team. Ellis in his rookie season had, was it 8 or 9 sacks?
Nice.
Like, okay, we're at 60 or 70% already of what Nick Benito had. Ellis is in his second year. Benito is coming into his fourth year.
But the thing is like, here we go. And I am not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying like sacks aren't everything, because then you've got pressures in there that you want to look at. What's his pressure rate? How about the run blocking and all that stuff? So you have a great problem in Denver, and I get what you're saying. Like, look, why are we paying this guy? We got this guy does 80%, and we could use that money maybe with draft picks or whatever, throw it in there. But then you're also, and I don't want to say, I don't think this is how Denver does it, but like, because they look like they rewarded Sutton, right? Sometimes you want to reward the players, like it shows this loyalty aspect. Yes, it's a business, but it keeps people wanting to stay at that team or in that franchise.
Completely agree. I completely agree.
Right.
And there is that element to it. And I'm not even disagreeing with that. I'm simply looking at this from a
analytical, almost
just a pure analytical perspective, almost, which is, well, and even not even beyond. I'm actually even looking at it beyond the analytical.
It's like Moneyball. Richie's doing Moneyball in Denver.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it from not only the dollars and cents and the analytical side of it. I'm also looking at it from the film perspective. When you look at Jonah Ellis and how he was able to perform last season and what I've seen this year of him in preseason, I mean, he had what one would almost call a very Nick Benito-esque series in the last game here, where he had almost 3 straight plays where he was in the backfield and sacked the quarterback almost twice. Like exactly what you saw from Nick Benito in game 1, right? Like you made a comment, Nick Benito looked unblockable. I literally watched Jonah Ellis. I watched Jonah Ellis do the exact same thing, and I'm like, I'm watching the same type of player, like literally almost identical. Now, is that ever a problem to have edge rushers that are like in the upper block of the league, and you're like, I got 2 of them.
So I want us to come back to this conversation.
I hate you, Richie. I hate your Broncos for having that.
Richie, I want to come back to this conversation with these 2, and I'm sure it's going to be similar, like in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And let's see what this is looking like in 6 weeks, because like you said, you want to see him stack back-to-back years, and he does too. You're saying he's in a contract year?
Oh, yeah.
So he's trying not to get hurt. He's trying to ball out. And Ellis, look, he's going into his second year and could be having, maybe he has that sophomore slump. Who knows? But let's see. Let's look back at this in 6 weeks, because I'll be curious about it as well.
So first things first, I just simply wanted my honest opinion. Obviously, it's a little bit more than just an opinion. I have some, depth to it. It's not just like my gut reaction to something. I have some pretty, I have not come to this opinion lightly. We'll just put it that way.
Sure.
And I'm absolutely willing to be wrong. In fact, it would not be the first time and it will not be the last. However, generally speaking, as it comes to Broncos fans and how I assess things, I am willing to stand on my record in the fact that I've had a pretty good one so far.
No, you've some of the no-name guys, you've kind of hit the nail on the head with some of these guys. I've been pretty impressed with you this offseason.
So
I'm already regretting some of the guys I've called out. So
yeah.
And it never hurts when you have a defense like Denver, where you got to worry about so many different guys, which opens the doors for some of these younger kids to come in, because you're not looking at the younger kid as much as you're looking at some of these veterans that, hey, I know what this guy can do. So, I mean, it helps out. You look at the Rams when they had that defensive tackle, and all the linebackers that were behind them just looked like studs. And,
you're talking about Aaron Donald?
Yeah, Aaron Donald. So, a great example was Corey Littleton. Man, he was like the best pass covering linebacker that whole year. So the Raiders signed him going, oh, we got our answer to Travis Kelce. And he got smoked. So
Dude,
I got to say,
Aaron Donald made his D-line mates actually look good, look great.
Yeah. Right.
And then we saw them go to other teams, i.e. one of my team, and they look like trash. They were just slightly average D tackles. And I'm like, oh, great. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, what happened, you know?
Yeah.
So I did want to bring up, because DZ, you kind of tossed me a bone there in terms of a segue for the last two guys and an honorable mention in my linebacking core. And this will bring me to my last hot take of these guys are awesome players. And that is Kareem Reed and Jordan Turner. They are two undrafted free agent inside linebackers of my Denver Broncos. And I think it's going to be pretty hard for my D coordinator to not, and my GM for that matter, to not keep both on the 53-man roster.
That's wild to say that. UDFAs, that's wild.
So, and for those that want to question my takes on those, I encourage you to watch the film.
No, I mean, film doesn't lie, right?
Like they killed it.
Yeah.
Like they killed it.
So you think
whose jobs are they taking? That's what's crazy.
Hold on. Let me just finish that, and you guys can have at it if you want to try to tear me to shreds on this.
No.
My prediction is that what this will end up being is Drew Sanders will simply outright be cut.
That's what I was going to ask.
Okay. Like outright cut. Thankfully, the guy that I never want to see in a Broncos uniform again, and I realize I'm in rare air, and people are, going to say that I'm a fool for saying this and all that stuff. But Justin Strnad, I don't want to see again on my Denver Broncos. He is an above average backup inside backer. He has played well in the preseason. However, I am taking into account the caliber of players that he has played against. And I'm looking at where both of these guys are. So if I see two UDFA rookie inside linebackers that are literally playing at the exact same level as a basically rental one-year player in Justin Strnad on my team, and they're playing at the same level right now, and I got two rookies and one guy that's like a 4 or 5th-year vet, like, I'm sorry, my answer is I want the rookies all day, every day, twice on Sundays. Right. Because those dudes there are already better than a veteran, in my opinion, because if they're as rookies playing to that same level, they have one direction to go, and that's that way.
No, I 100% get it.
Here you got player control for, instead of the 1-year rental, you got it for many, many years. So
right.
I think 3. I think
you got 4 years. You got 4 years because you don't get the 5th-year option from the rookies. So you get 4 years cost controlled at the inside backers UDFA.
Even with the UDFA?
Yeah, it's 4 years.
It's 4 years.
It's 4 years.
So you kind of essentially answered my question. I was like, whose jobs are they going to take? And
look, I came prepared. Yeah. Look, I came prepared, okay? I knew the question ahead of time. I said, hang on, I'm going to give you, I know what you're looking for. Those are my answers that I have for my Denver Broncos.
So then, I mean, like, okay, what teams usually keep 5 linebackers, usually 1 plays special, maybe 2 play special teams.
They probably all play special.
No, I don't know. Sometimes, Jack, yeah. But
with the new kickoff rule, you're seeing a lot more linebackers.
Sure. Yes, good point.
Yeah, so you want to know the guys that I think we're keeping. So I can go through those in literally 2 seconds, and I'll kind of list them off. Drake Greenlaw is going to be a starting inside linebacker for my Denver Broncos. Alex Singleton will be a starting inside linebacker for my Denver Broncos. Lavelle Bailey, who was a UDFA last year, who made the 53 and is making the 53 again this year, is on my Denver Broncos 53-man roster again. And then, in my opinion, you have your remaining 2, which are going to be Jordan Turner and Kareem Reed. And that leaves out
so that's
the
6 guys.
Backers. No, that's 5.
Can't leave out Benito.
No, he's an outside linebacker.
Is an outside linebacker.
Oh, you're talking middle linebacker.
Just edge guy. Yeah.
He's an outside backer. So I
So that's
have
five.
thinking
That's
linebacker
five.
as a
five
whole,
Richie?
but you
inside
gotta do a
backers.
3-4.
I believe it's going to be 5 inside backers.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
Hey, that'll be cool. So look, this will be really interesting. And what, 2 weeks from now, we'll look back on this and see if this comes to fruition or whatnot.
So just real quick to quickly go down it again. I have Dre Greenlaw, Alex Singleton, Lavelle Bailey, Jordan Turner, and last but not least, Kareen Reed. And for the record, Kareen Reed and Jordan Turner are UDFAs. Jordan Turner wasn't even a UDFA direct from the draft like Kareen Reed was. Jordan Turner was a tryout player that came in after the draft.
Like later on.
That my team pulled in too, and he is freaking killing it.
Nice. I don't have that kind of confidence in like the guys that I think are making the 53 at the linebacker group. They're all up there, and I'm like, there's politics involved. So I'm like, God damn it, because there's some guys that
just tells you, like you can get linebackers. That no wonder why they don't get drafted as high. Because linebackers, you're getting them in the later rounds or UDFAs, and I'm seeing this. It's like one of my UDFAs, which I don't think is going to make the squad, which I hate. He's probably my favorite player as a linebacker on the entire Raider squad is Amari Gainer.
Yeah.
He got 4 reps. The first game, I don't even know. I don't even know if I even saw him on the field, and I rewatched that Niner game. And he's the best coverage linebacker, which I'm going to talk about coverage for the Raiders. He's the best coverage linebacker on the entire team, and the only thing he's seeing is special teams.
Yep. So I'm just going to quickly run down the guys that I really thought did a really bad, like they were not great.
Piss poor job.
Like they were not great. And one guy I'm not surprised about. One guy I'm quite shocked about because he is a prediction that I had playing much better and is not. He's just not doing well. So I'm going to start off with my prediction that I may have gotten wrong, but we'll wait and see if he can develop. I'm hoping maybe practice squad and then maybe a year 2 developmental guy, kind of like Nick G. Clay Webb.
Mm-hmm.
You know him as Gatorade Boy. And
is this 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Look, I am willing to admit if I made a mistake. And I'm willing to call it out live in front of a whole big audience, which is how you know that I'm actually honest in when I assess things.
Right.
And he has not put good tape out there. He has not done particularly well. Although in fairness, he also hasn't been put at the center position, which is where I really wanted him to be put. Instead, the team has put him at guard. I'd like to see him at the center position more to see if he does a better job there instead. Either way, neither here nor there. If you play the interior of the offensive line, you really do need to, in order to make a team, be able to play all 3 spots in the depth positions of the interior offensive line. Otherwise, you're going to probably struggle. Especially since that he's coming up from not being drafted in like the 2nd or 3rd round. He's coming up from like UDFA status where he has to elevate himself, and he's just not doing it. Last but not least, this one here, my man. This is for you, Jack, and Raider Shield. I'm going to read that in just 1 sec once I'm done this comment here. Is Audric Estime.
Bye-bye.
Dude, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. That's all I got to say. Like he is not good. Like it is not looking good for him. He is looking like he's got bricks tied to his shoes. Okay, here, Jack, let me explain this to you because I think you need a little bit of let's come back down to earth on Estime here. So I'm going to do my very best in a very short amount of time here to explain this to you. Audric Estime in last preseason game against the Cardinals had a hole that was opened up, like visible on screen. Instead of running to that hole, he ran into the rear end of the offensive line in front of him and fell backwards. That's your dude.
Yeah, well, that wasn't my dude. That's not the same guy I know, like at Notre Dame. But I'll say who that reminds me of is Zamir White. I mean, you know, you get the parting C for Zamir White, and it's like he's got blinders on, and he's like, no, I'm just going to run into the first defensive player that I see.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sounded like the same type of thing.
Yeah.
All
So
right, let's see what this is.
I had to bring up the Estime thing, Jack, because I'm sorry, it is like, as far as I'm concerned, nails in coffin. Okay, like that's kind of all I'll say. So Raider Shield family brings us in here with a super chat. You want it read live on screen right away, give us a super, and we will read it here for everyone to see and display it. Thank you again, Raider Shield family. Week 1, the game plan for the Raiders should be feed Brock, Mike Mayer, and Ian Thomas to exploit the traitor Bobby Spillane over the mid. Should be fun.
You're just salty, Nav.
So, Nav, I don't know if that is salty on Spillane or the fact that you just think that you have a reasonable crew there that can actually make Spillane look silly.
They do have a crew, man.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a crew.
But I'm
guys,
just not
I
sure
know
where the balance is there. That's what I'm saying. I'm
It's
not sure where
both.
the balance is there. It's a tough one for me to gauge. I'm willing to say that he probably thinks that his offensive weaponry is probably where the strength is now, and that's why he wants to see that happen. And I'm going to be honest, the Raiders are certainly looking much improved on the offensive side of the ball. So
Yeah.
Oh, way much improved. I guess me and Nab are going to disagree on this. I do like Spillane. I'm a Spillane guy. But yes, it's like, a lot of people said we kind of they overpaid for him. And I don't feel that way. I feel like Spillane was worth the money. It was like a 3-year, $11 million per and like $4 million in incentives for a guy who's a 3-down linebacker, which I'm going to touch on, kind of with our Raiders pass protection when it's my turn.
yeah. So I'm going to go through just 2 last guys here, and I'm going to go in a whole position group, actually. So I'll start with the whole position group. Interior offensive line for my Denver Broncos continued to play like hot trash in this particular game. We did not do well. We did not block well. We did not pass pro. Well, we passed pro better than we ran block in the interior side. However, that does not align with what my Denver Broncos are clearly wanting to do this season. So I would not be surprised with the injury to Nick G that we may be looking for an upgrade on Throckmorton as an interior guard, as like a backup guy there. Just something to kind of keep in mind to keep looking for. Although I do think that we may supplement those guys because we do have an embarrassment of riches at the tackle positions in terms of depth. Those guys are killing it. And so maybe we supplement one for the other just because tackles are so much harder to find. So we'll wait and see what happens there. However, my guy who I think will bounce back, but certainly did not have a very good game against the Arizona Cardinals, Alex Plazowski. Dude, you made the same mistake 3 times. You deserve to get called out. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You are much larger than I am, although not by that much. But still, you are a big dude, and I get it. But guess what? Dude, that game sucked. And I'm a fan. Like, I actually really like him. I actually think he could actually one day become a starter for my Denver Broncos, despite the fact that he was a late round / UDFA. Still doesn't change the fact that he sucked in that game, and he really needed to improve. You can't make those mistakes and make the roster, so you need to bounce back, and I am certainly rooting for him because I do really like him as a player. Last but not least, to round out the "oh no, we suck again" players, that was Caleb Lohner, who was the 6'7" basketball player who we drafted in the 7th round at tight end. He had a couple decent plays, but then proceeded to get called for 2 or 3 penalties for really dumb moves and dumb plays. I see that as rust, and as a young guy who's played like a total of like 26 snaps of football in his entire career. So fine. But sure. I think that what he has done and what he has showed me in that particular game is my initial 53-man roster prediction for my Denver Broncos. I think that he is more suited for the practice squad. And I think that if he does get poached, I'm not necessarily going to be as upset because my Broncos need guys that can play the position in the near term, not the long term. And I would be concerned that he may take one too many years to develop to make it worth our while.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my assessment of my Broncos. Jack, you go. And then we got some news to discuss before we get on to some very brief predictions of what we think is going to come ahead of the last and final preseason game.
Yeah, saving that best
Raiders.
part for last. That's for sure. So with the Raiders, again, the Raiders played the San Francisco 49ers. Again, as a NorCal guy, I don't like the Niners. That's one of the games, the few games, preseason, I don't really care you win or lose, but I actually just wanted to win it just so I can say to all my friends, they don't bug me, hit me up on the phone, and I have to listen to it. And it was a good battle. It's like, the starting crew looked good. When you put the starting offensive line out there, you got Brock Bowers out there, you got Michael Mayers when they did, again, doing the 12 personnel, and Dante Thornton. I see that kid is going to be a big part of this offense. Very first play of the game, Geno Smith throws a 28-yard, ball to Brock Bowers, reaches over to the defender, makes a catch, and that was his one and only catch for the day. But you can see from the first two preseason games, they are definitely throwing the ball deep. When you get a guy like Geno, who's got a very good arm, throwing it
Geno
deep,
has like one of the best deep balls in the league, right?
in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
And I saw it the first week. I saw it the second week. And Dante Thornton they are definitely trying to push that ball down the field. It is going to be exciting. So far, Geno's kind of overthrown, the ball a little bit. So, but that's not that far off. It's just, I think that's why they keep doing it. They're
right.
like, they're feeding it because they know that that's something that they're going to want to use as a weapon. And, Geno was like, 6 of 8, and I forgot how many yards, dude. It's like, it's not a whole lot because he played like, the first quarter, it was like 55 yards. And then, the offensive line, again, part of the things that I said in, the first week, the offensive line as a whole didn't look all that good. So, and then this is something I know Richie's going to want to comment on. But, one of the very first runs that Jeanty had was a wake up to the NFL. It was like the the unstoppable force, unmovable, object, and him and like a linebacker collided, and they both just kind of stopped, and they both went down. And Jeanty got a stinger, and he had to go over to the tent, and so he was out for a little bit because of that. But you can just see that the boy wants contact. And he said he's never had that in college, when he had a presser. So he had his wake up to the NFL. And then, coming back in, he had a nice 13-yard run. And Jeanty just doing what Jeanty does. He makes like the first guy miss. He runs over the second guy. And then he even, carries a guy a little bit to gain a little bit of extra yardage. So it's like, that's what we want to see. I was like, wow, it kind of reminds me of, Josh Jacobs, doing the same kind of thing. So I'm really excited to see, what Jeanty can do, with this offense and, having, again, the starting offensive line. And we'll talk a little bit more about, again, when we get to the bad side of things.
Did you have the starting line out there this week? We
did. So
okay.
They all played the first quarter. Everyone played the first quarter. So it was good to see it because, the first time we had the first series and, against Seattle, and the only ones that stayed out there were Meredith and Jackson Power Johnson because they're switching positions. Right. So they want to try to get the reps, out there to, have these guys learn. And this time they went out when the Raiders offense went out, they went out this time as well too. So
hey, Jack,
that was.
I just gotta hold on. I got one thing I want to bring up since I don't want you to get too far away from Jeanty. I want to kind of go back to running.
Oh, that's right. I know you wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah, I'm going to give 2 stat lines. Without looking it up, I want you to tell me who's who. Okay? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Running back A. for the totality of the 2025 preseason. 10 carries, 32 yards, average of 3.2 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown.
You talking last year?
For the 2025 preseason.
Well, I'm going to say like the two guys that have actually looked like Collier.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
We got 2 running backs. I'm about to give you both of their stats. All I need you to do is listen to both and tell me who's who. Okay?
Okay. Got it.
Show my hand so you even know what I'm doing. Jeez, man. Okay. I'm going to repeat. This is for the 2025 preseason. So we've had 2 games total. Okay. I'm going to give you carries, yards, and then average yards per carry for both and touchdown total. 10 carries, 32 yards, 3.2 yards per carry average, 1 touchdown. That is running back A.
Okay.
Running back B. This is for the totality of, this is running back B. This is the other running back. Total of 10 carries, so identical number of carries. 43 yards, average of 4.3 yards a carry, and 1 touchdown.
Gotta be. Okay. I'm going to say A would be Jeanty, B would be Collier, if I'm right.
Who's Collier?
Oh, you don't Collier?
No.
Chris Collier.
Oh, no. Who do you think running back B is?
I thought it would have been Chris Collier. Hey, see you later, Nav. Oh, I almost forgot to do this too. So go ahead and finish up on that.
So I'm not telling Jack to not interrupt me. I'm saying that I said that I'm going to compare 2 stats, and he only let me finish 1.
We're getting so close to the season. People are getting.
Yeah. And so I'll tell you who's who. The first one was Jeanty. You're 100% correct. That's exactly what his stats are. 10 carries, 3.2 yards average, 1 touchdown. The second one is RJ Harvey of my Denver Broncos.
Oh, I would have never guessed
10 carries.
I was thinking my team.
No, well, I'm not only going on Raiders. I'm simply comparing 2 rookie running backs. Again, like we're quite literally basically comparing apples to apples, right?
Yeah, we're talking a very small sample size though too.
Sure, but the point being though is that you're talking about small sample size, only preseason, 2 different teams. However, one of them was drafted way early in the first, and the other one was not drafted in the first round at all, right? And so I think so I think it's just an interesting thing to look at in terms of comparative of stats, in terms of looking at A and B, and just looking at just look at that.
Yeah. Again, it's small sample size, and we'll see that over the course of the season what it looks like.
Dude,
Nav.
Really?
Nav.
Oh,
I can't even find
him. I might have to start making you look silly, my man.
I can't find Omarion Hampton's stats because I'm curious as well if he's even had 10 carries. I don't even think he's had 10 carries in the preseason, so we'll see if the phone can figure it out.
I think it's totally fair. Let's compare all of them across the board.
No, I think it's a good. Right? I think it's a good Raz. It's a good Raz. It's all preseason. We're going to see what happens during the regular season.
Yep.
So for that,
and Jack, that is a truly fair comment to make. Hey, that's preseason. Let's see what happens over the whole course of the regular season.
Yes, that's another one we got to go back to.
And I think that's a totally fair comment. I think that makes total sense. Let's go ahead and do that, and let's see where things land. Jeanty may come out and blow the doors off the league and end up being that like 2,000-yard freak rusher or something, or he could struggle behind an offensive line that may or may not be great this season, and then maybe he kind of blows the door off in year 2. Who knows? We'll wait and see, right?
And I will say this: the offensive line looked much better this week for the starters. That is, there's definitely a drop off. One of my kind of, the dog water was, going on the offensive line after the starters came out, which I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I do want to do this. I kind of forgot it. I do like to, acknowledge the fans that we have: Sacktown, Desert, Matt Marinovich, Pillage Just for Fun, all the way from Guam, Willie Wayne, Victory Lap, Biggie Bronco, of course, Nav, Bishop, Stole for the Badger, Angelo, and Gerald Ross. Think to have all you guys, in the chat. So
you missed somebody though. There was some guy you missed.
I don't think I missed anybody.
Okay. I forgot to highlight Angelo because I'm in a guillotine league. He invited me in, so sorry, Angelo, for not highlighting you on that. I have no clue what I'm going to do in that league. I've played fantasy for a long time, so should be interesting.
Yeah. So going back
Jack,
to the game. So going back to the game again, that they look good. Again, I was really looking forward to see some improvement. I wanted to see who they're going to have out there. And what I saw from this team is, at least this game, they were looking at the quarterback battle. And again, I'm just going to go offense and defense. They were really looking at the quarterback battle because they only had 19 rushes for the whole game, where the Niners had 28 rushes. So they really wanted to put and check out their backup quarterbacks. Yeah. Which, since you guys were talking about backup quarterbacks, which is not what I'm seeing on my team, and I mentioned it earlier, I'm seeing the limitation on my number 2 quarterback. Do I think he still should be number 2? Yeah, until proven otherwise, and see what Cam Miller can do. But Cam Miller didn't have a very good game either. So, good Lord, please keep Geno safe. Don't let get hurt. But it was really a battle of going back and forth. And the one thing that was kind of just weird is just there wasn't a lot of stuff going to the outside. And what I saw for my Raiders defense, and I'm going to kind of switch over there, is going in the middle. They look good. And I don't think I've ever said this before, ever on this show or on anyone's show. Kyrie Wilson playing the inside actually looked good. He had a 74.4 PS grade. And even though he didn't really register anything, he was disruptive.
He kicked down inside.
Again, yeah, it's like, using him outside. I said it, the week before, he gives up what he's going to do. But on the inside, the kid was looking, pretty impressive and being disruptive. And I'm hoping, again, moving him on the inside and playing him there. And again, it's like, they could do him on the outside, but I think he looks a lot better on the inside than the outside. And then, of course, Max is Max. Again, I'm not even going to talk about him because, he is just what he is. We all know that.
Right.
But guys like, the interior look good. And where they got hurt is when they ran to the outside on these defensive ends for the most part. That's where the Niners got their chunk plays in running the ball. But when they ran inside, oh, my God, they got shut down. So that rotation that they have is looking good. And, like a guy like Tonka Hemingway, I mean, I have been so impressed with Tonka so far. I mean,
what about
right
Lockie?
now it's a guy who they traded for Booker. Again, I'm kind of looking at these guys. What were you going to say?
What about Lockie? I know you said Tonka, but I know you're a big fan of him.
Lockie's on the offense. I'll go back to that when I'll talk a little bit more about Poor and what he did, because there is a player on the offensive line I definitely want to bring out, and he's straight up guard, dog water. So
I just had a question on your D line there, specifically in your comment, like exactly on that comment. Is that because your D linemen are selling out on the interior on the run, like that you were getting run on the outside? Like were they kind of selling out on kind of that convergence to the middle, or was it just they were getting boxed out? So you made a comment that I was just genuinely curious, because I'll be honest, I didn't get a chance to watch your second preseason game.
That's okay.
I watched quite a bit of your first. I just didn't get around to the second preseason game.
Well, again, the D line is looking a lot better because again, I talked a little bit about the linebackers earlier, and the linebackers they brought in, they are all run stuffing linebackers. I mean, they're all run stuffing. It's like they brought in a couple Denzel Perrymans, guys that are like, they'll just shoot the gaps, they'll make tackles, but you put them in pass coverage, then it's a whole different ball of wax. So yes, when you look at Roberts, you look at what's his name they got from Seattle, went to the Jets, and they moved him from safety, and he's a linebacker. You got White. None of these guys can cover, but they are all run stuffers, and they're running a lot of 3 linebacker sets. And when they don't, they may run 3 safeties, and they're bringing Jeremy Chin, who's also another good run stuffer, and they're putting him in the box. So based on the personnel that they're running, yeah, they're looking really good. Again, setting the edge is kind of interesting. So someone who's been kind of MIA, this whole off season is Kuntz. I'm like, where are you? You're not showing up on the film. You're not flashing. So I mean, in my mind, again with trades and so forth, if he doesn't improve, I can see him on the block, and I won't be sad if he were to go because you can get some value for him. So that leads me to where now let's talk about some of the bad. So not one player on the Raiders, linebackers, safeties, corners had a PFF grade over 65 last year. Not one.
Last year or last week?
Last year. Not a single player. So you figure they played in how many games they played? Not one. And you got to look at our starters that we had out there. They had Stokes, Blylu Kelly. By the way, he's bounced around between 4 or 5 teams. He actually started the game. Okay. He went over Porter, our 3rd-round draft pick. He started over him. And he went for about half of the first quarter, and then they put Porter in there. Between, Stokes, Porter, Kelly, there were 7 receptions for 95 yards and a QBR over 100 against our starting team. And we talked about, you guys earlier, we're talking about the Niners with no weapons, and that's why they went out and made that trade. Oh, they were slicing and dicing on the Raiders secondary. Let it be the linebackers, the safeties, the corners. So I mean
Jack, that shouldn't be a surprise. We everybody, even the Raiders fan diehard like yourself, that your secondary is probably your weak link on that team. I would assume.
Absolutely, right? I agree. There's no. Thank you, Sacktown. Caillou Blue Kelly. Sorry, I mispronounced his name. So thank you for that. And Sacktown, thank you for Jamal. I forgot his name for a second. But yes, I totally agree. So where the strength is, you can see the strength in this team is going against the run.
Yeah.
But where you can definitely see the weakness against, a weak wide receiving core with the 49ers. I mean, they were getting shredded. Mac Jones, 13 of 16, 135 yards, 1 INT. Carter Bradley, who was our practice squad quarterback last year. And by the way, I didn't know if you knew this, DZ, but Gus is actually coaching in San Francisco. So his son's over there now. He's over there with him now. 8 for 13 for 96 yards, no TDs, no interceptions. And Brock Purdy went for 5 for 7 for 66 yards. They're shredding. So and they're playing this zone defense. They went away from what they did last year. And, you replaced, again, 8 of the 11, defensive players on the squad. And number 9 was, Malcolm Kuntz, who missed the whole season. So it's like you're going from scratch. You hear about Coupon Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what Spytech, did on the Raiders defense. They went super cheap. They have the 4th lowest payroll out there. And not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing or whatever, but that's the 4th lowest payroll. So they're not going after any splash guys. And then you lose a Christian Wilkerson, which, if you're not going to have a good secondary, you need to have a good defensive line. You need to have good edge rushers to put pressure on. I'm not saying the Raiders D-line is good about putting the pressure on the quarterback, at least from the interior. And then yet I've not seen it from Malcolm Kuntz this year. That is going to be an area of need, going forward. And, now the rumors are starting to pop up, in the way of, which again, it won't help us on the edge rushing or setting the edge in the way of, blocking or taking down running backs, because that is one of the weaker spots. But you look at, what's going on in Cincinnati in Trey Hendrickson, and,
There's a rumor.
In Cincinnati saying, they lowered what they want because they just can't get the deal done. So I'm just kind of curious if, based on the play of Malcolm Kuntz and what we know we can get from him, at least in a pass rusher, I mean, the pairing up with Max Crosby, that can be very interesting. So a rumor there. Now, going back to
I'd be so pissed if you guys got Trey. But...
Shit. Jack, don't do it.
Do it. I was like, do it. Because from before they wanted, one team offered a second rounder for him, and Cincinnati turned it down. And what I heard now is that they're willing to take a player and a third rounder.
Ooh.
So I'm like, okay, if you can, put, Kuntz in there, or, Tyree Wilson, one of those two dudes, and give him a third rounder for him. Yeah. And they got the salary.
But I heard, Jack, I also heard it doesn't have to be a defensive player either, which is wild.
Right. But I think they would give up a defensive player because Kuntz is on a last year's contract.
Right.
Hurt all last year. And he's coming off the rookie deal, and they signed a 1 year, $12 million. So if he balls out, who knows if he even stays with the Raiders. So that's a big risk. Tyree is in the last year's contract. They're not going to give him a 5th-year option. So, again, either one of those guys to get, him and, again, match. It's a window with Pete Carroll's window of having 3 years. You can match that window and then move on, from that guy. So I find that very fascinating and interesting. Now, like I said before, the offensive line, going from the starters to the second string. We got 2 third-round draft picks on there. And the first series, they looked goddamn awful. I mean, no one looked like they can block.
Join the club.
And again, I'm going to say this with Thayer Mumford, too. Mumford's been a starter. He's gone through his rookie contract. He's on his next contract as a backup. And he's getting dog walked all over the place. So that guy can just, if you don't move him to a guard, just go. Just get him the hell out of here. Who was the player? Leatherface that I used to call him. Leatherwood.
Leatherwood,
and
yeah.
You saw, he kind of remind me of him.
Alex
and
Leatherwood.
So when your Chargers got him, I'm like, dude, good riddance. You can have him because, he's a liability.
He was absolute trash. How these guys get in the league, I have no clue. But, I mean, it takes one team picking them and then another team saying, oh, I think I can fix them. You know what I mean? Just
Well, this is proof that in the NFL draft, when they go up against lesser competition in college,
sure,
there's an art form. Yeah, there's an art form in terms of being able to select, the guys that looked good in college just because they were going against lesser than competition, and the guys that were in college that won their assignments and are also willing to continue to elevate their game. It's an art form. Like, there's a reason why there's such a high failure rate in the draft.
Yeah. Jack, there's a player that I haven't heard you mention really at all this preseason. I mean, mind you, it's only been 2 games for you guys. But a guy that I was a huge fan of, it was Jack Besh. Like, is he just not getting looks or targets or?
So Jack Besh is coming out with, he had a couple catches this week. He looked pretty good.
Cool.
And, I will say this with Besh. What I love about him, he is a very willing blocker. So he's willing to do this stuff. When it's not going to him, he's willing to go out there and block. And actually, he made a fantastic block, to help his fellow wide receiver out and get a few extra yards. But he's not with the first team. And Aiden O'Connell and again Cam Miller, you got to look at who's throwing the ball, right?
Yeah.
So that makes a big difference. And when your offensive line, like again, the second string offensive line's not looking as good, and you got an immobile quarterback in Aiden O'Connell, it's not churning the way that you want to see your second group be. But Besh, first game, not a lot there. Second game, he got a couple catches, and he improved. I think again the whole team as a whole improved.
Right.
But so I'm looking forward to see what he does more. And they're running him out of the slot. They're doing the same thing with Jacoby Myers. They moved him into the slot instead of outside. So
they're doing that with Besh as well, slot.
Yeah, Besh is running a lot of slot is what he's doing.
So it's your first string wide receiver would be what? Myers, Trey Tucker, and you throw Thornton in there, or would you throw?
Yeah, Besh? Thornton has been starting over Besh.
So he's like your X.
Yeah, he is the X.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying they've been pushing the ball to him, which they haven't really been connecting on that deep ball. But like I said, they're getting closer and closer. They just got to learn each other. Yeah. And it's going to be an exciting play to stretch the field, which is going to open up everything else for the offense itself. So, yeah, Besh is on the second string. And that so since you segue into it, so that leaves me with Jacoby Myers, who, had the same stats of Richie's wide receiver that they just signed for that big contract.
Cortland.
And that's what I was saying. That's kind of the, the marking point, for, where his contract probably should be, because the stats were so similar. Because they're not a true number ones, but very good top end number twos, and they're proven vets. So he's got no guaranteed money. So I'm sure he's getting frustrated about no guaranteed money, and they have not signed him to anything. So it's and Besh is kind of the same type of guy. Neither one of them are super fast. Besh is definitely bigger. Jacoby Myers didn't drop one ball all last year, and Jack Besh in college dropped one ball. Yeah, so they're kind of again, what kind of Richie was saying, hey, do you want to save that money? And you're seeing the same type of player that can do the same job.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see, but I really feel like they definitely need to keep him. But then that leads me to another disgruntled player that's out there, that's on the Washington Commanders, who, again, Jacoby's 28. What's his face? I'm trying to remember his name.
Scary Terry?
Yeah, Scary Terry. He's
31.
And what I'm hearing from that, he wants 33. He wants to be the same type of player like Metcalf, get that type of contract. And I'm hearing that, the Commanders are about 28 and a half is where they're at. So again, thinking short term, just almost like a beat. Again, Scary Terry as a whole is probably a little better receiver, or he is a better receiver, but he is getting up there in age. So Jacoby can play 3 more years, get the same time, which I think he'll get more value out of. I wonder if those guys may think about doing a swap. And now you got 3 guys on, the wide receivers that are running in the 4-3s. So that would be pretty scary.
Both those guys, like Trey Hendrickson and Terry McLaurin, are both, in my opinion, looking for the bag. They are both looking to get paid, because I don't think either one of them in their career has been paid the bag, to retire on or whatnot. So honestly, I think it's going to highest bidder for those guys. I mean, both obviously have to get traded, but this is something that fans will think about. They're like, oh, we should trade for that guy, right? Like every team would want Trey Hendrickson, and every team would probably want Terry McLaurin on their team. They're both really upper echelon players. But what the fan doesn't realize is that once you trade for that guy, you're probably going to have to pay that guy. And it's and what do you feel comfortable paying a person who is Trey is 30 years old, and if you look up the average in the NFL at what year does an outside linebacker or edge guy retire, it's 30 years old. he is going to be 30. He is 30 years old. I think he'll be 31 during the season. So it's like, what does an organization feel comfortable paying that guy, right? Like, are they going to pay him that huge contract? Like, because he is in that upper echelon of edge guys. He's up there, in my opinion, with TJ, Max, all these guys. That's where I think that's where he's at. But it's like you're flirting with something, paying a guy that old. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah, but I will say this though. You look at, again, you said 31 years old. I've kind of seen guys on the defensive line, the offensive line, wide receivers.
Sure. Yes.
Their careers seem to go longer than other positions that are on the roster itself.
Well, I just told you the average though. The average in the NFL is 30 years old when these guys retire. So, like, he can be above that, right? Like, there's Calais Campbell out there. I mean, what is he, 38 years old or something?
Dude,
so
he's like 80,
guys like,
still playing.
Yeah. So it's
I think
just
he's either 39 or 40.
The way I look at the Raiders, it's almost like I kind of see you guys like the Cincinnati Bengals a little bit, but you guys have like some good pieces on the defense, but you could potentially have this really good offense this year, and they're probably going to let it ride, and you guys have a ton of money going in next season, and that's where I see you guys probably going all in with the defense. And so like year 2, that's where I see the Raiders saying, all right, let's rock and roll. Let's go for this and bring in some star-studded guys, probably in the secondary and maybe another edge to, mirror Max. But it looks like right now, like this offense, look, we haven't seen it. I know you guys have concerns with your O-line, but like it looks like
the backups at least.
Yeah, but it looks like this offense is going to be really good for you guys.
Well, I just look at and I agree with you, DZ. I look at what the investment, they had 11 picks. I think 7 were offense and 4 were defense. So I do agree, and after losing, again, 8 of your 11 starters, and, you got 2 defensive tackles, and then you got, 2 defensive tackles. Yeah, you got 4. 2 defensive tackles. You got Porter, and you got Lindenberg, who was the linebacker, a 7th-round pick. So, yeah. So I will say this, talking about you mentioned, we talked about the offensive line. Oh my God, Antonio Maffei. So again, so I can lead into Laki Tazi with this, but Antonio Maffei needs to go. He needs to absolutely go. I watched him give up 2 pressures, a sack, and a holding penalty, and he just got walked by the Niners. And I'm like, why are they playing this guy so much? Again, one of the guys I wanted to see was Laki Tazi. Okay. And then when they bring in Laki Tazi was being Laki Tazi. See guy, hit guy, move guy. and that's what he did. He didn't have one of those shots like, that I sent you guys a video where he's just pancaking and flooring a dude. But he's doing the same thing. He's making the guy can't go around him, on a passing play.
Jack, he's already made
running plays. And he's running plays. He's moving guys. And he's still doing the same thing I mentioned in week 1 for a guy who really never played, is getting off his block and going to the next level. I mean, where I see this Maffei guy, maybe again, they just wanted to see more of him get his preseason. And, since, Tassi's an international player, maybe they just wanted to see more of him. I don't know. But I think I think he's done. Because Kappa, who they signed, 2-year, $11 million contract, he's finally back in camp. And they have him in JPJ. Like, oh, who's the starter? JPJ/Kappa. Yeah. And that's the way that, it still sits on there, which I don't get that. But again, I haven't seen Kappa play 1 game. He's been out with rib injuries. So this Massey kid, oh, dude, Massey just needs to go. It's like when you see a player that plays that bad, and you're just like, I just need to get rid of him, and I don't want to see him anymore.
I have players on that. I feel you, man. I got players. There's a guy running back with us, Vidal. Like, I don't want to see him anymore. I'm over it. I'm done. Bye. See you later.
So, and I'll finish up with this. He's one of he was the worst. So a couple players that I thought was pretty cool. I talked how bad the Raiders defensive backs were, and they were getting used and abused with no-name wide receivers. I will say, Richardson, came in, who's their DeCorian, as a cornerback. He was the number 3 guy on the team. He played in only 13 snaps, not one target against him. So great day for him. Tommy Malott, he played in the Mountain West against Cam Miller. And, they drafted him. He was a quarterback, but they drafted him as a wide receiver. I was thinking he's going to get cut, because he hasn't shown anything. In this game, he had a 40 to 42 yard kickoff return.
Nice.
Which was pretty impressive, because I haven't seen anyone on the Raiders do that. And he also got a tackle. I mean, picture this. He's a quarterback, right? In college. Yeah. And he's playing like a gunner. And he gets a tackle. So I don't know if that's enough to save him. But then again, when the Raiders took him, you knew he's going to be a project player if you want him to be like the Julian Edelman type. So again, that's kind of like, what we were talking about. Do you keep that player who's more ready now versus that player that might have the bigger upside down the road? So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the tight ends, and this Niner Raider game was all about the tight ends too. Throwing the ball to the tight ends on the Niner side, throwing the ball to the Raiders tight ends. How do you say Quizmo? Ismail? The same guy was played for the Notre Dame, and then he was on Green Bay. He was a kick returner, and then he's on the Raiders. This is like his nephew or something like that. So he looked really good. And there's another tight end named Runyon, who at UDFA, and he looked pretty good. So it's like, they were throwing to the tight ends. And so that's again thing with Aiden O'Connell. He wasn't really using the outside receivers. So, like I said, Besh got a couple catches, but I don't think he threw to the outside receivers. He went strictly tight ends, slot, running backs. So that was kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the players that I want to see more of. And the last thing I'll say about Lockie Tossi is they did not even play him. They brought him in on the fourth quarter. They did not even play him the whole fourth quarter. They took him out, and the backup center ended up going to left guard. So again, that makes me wonder. I'm like, are they going to say like JPJ's never going to play center again?
Dude, I don't understand what the hell the Raiders are doing with the JPJ stuff. That's
I don't get it either.
That's weird. But so I think we need to get into next week's game. Who you guys playing? We've got the Niners. Cardinals? Okay, we've got the Niners. And as of right now, from listening to some stuff, I don't know if we're playing the starters. This might be more depth guys. And to be honest with you, I've got guys that I want to put in bubble wrap and just keep them there until till they fly or land in Sao Paulo or wherever the hell they're playing in Brazil. Because, the guys I told you that balled out, the wide receivers, KLS, Trey Harris. I think Trey Harris got banged up in practice today too. So I'm like, these guys cannot stay effing healthy. I love to see all these guys just be put in some sort of bubble wrap and just get ready for the Chiefs. You know what I mean? Because when it matters. So I honestly, there's guys though that I need to see show us more. That's Kyle Kennard. Our 4th round pick out of South Carolina, the all SEC leading sack guy, who has been an absolute almost no-show for us the whole time. Mind you, he's been banged up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then do we really need to see Trey Lance anymore? So we've got.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah, sure. We got him.
The reason why I say that, because you got to look at, again, over the years, even, Trey Lance, getting a lot of starts in San Francisco. I think what he had, only 17 starts in college. So if you add it all up, I'd say you want to give him the experience, especially when you have an all-pro quarterback. Get him as many reps as he possibly can.
Yeah, I think usually this last game is where teams want to play their starters the most, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Could have been this previous week. It's so confusing. Do you remember like when we did the fours? It was like the 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it was that third week. Your starters. That's what it was for the Chargers. Your starters would play like a whole half or whatever, 3/4, and then that last final preseason game would just be all backups. Well, so going into San Francisco, I would assume that it's just going to be all the backups. But I got guys I don't even want to be out there. But then there's other guys I'm like, dude, I want to see something from you. And, like I said, Kyle Kennard, Junior Colson, stay out there, dude. Like, there's a lot of other, this O-line. Let's see I think what they're doing right now is they're searching for their swing tackle, their reserve offensive lineman right now. Because from what I heard, I think in this last game, they had 4 different combinations at the offensive line, not including the starters that were out there. So they're really mixing and matching. They're doing it in practice. They've been having simulated games in practice. So they really want to see more. They're trying to squeeze this juice as much as they can. You know what I mean?
Since you said that and you're talking offensive line, since Beckham came back, do you think they're going to give a big dose of Beckham since they haven't seen him all preseason? Or do you feel like he's just not there yet?
No, I don't think they don't want to risk it. They already lost, a guy they paid $90 some odd million to. I think he was dealing with something because, it's not any secret. Becton's had knee stuff, right? Throughout his career,
Mm-hmm.
He's had knee and ankle. And I bet you he was dealing with some sort of knee tendonitis because just sit for 3 weeks, essentially, and go in, he would go in the training room and go work out and do whatever, and he comes out today. He came out yesterday, did his walkthroughs, right? And then he kind of hangs out on the sidelines. And then today he actually got involved, which I thought was really short turnaround, got involved with some 11-on-11. So I think they're treating him like a vet. They're like, hey, he's going to be ready, but, we've got some time till Chiefs week 1. But overall, I got
another question for you too. Like just some players that you haven't mentioned that I've been thinking about is your wide receiver Trey Harris. I mean, how has he kind of looked overall, and how are they using him at this stage?
So he looked really good last week. Trey, like I said earlier, I think he went 6 for 85, and he had a beautiful, he had a beautiful 34-yard toe touching grab on the sideline. Just the kid, college, it's like 1 foot, right? This guy had dragged both feet down. It was gorgeous. And, everybody was in panic mode. Where's Trey Harris? Where's Trey Harris? Well, this all stems from poor quarterback and poor O-line play, right? So some of these studs that you really want to see, because like I said, our first offense was, hadn't played all preseason except they just played 1 drive. And so we'll see, but I don't need to see any more out of them, to be honest with you. No, no more. There's other guys, like there's another wide receiver I really like, Delvon Campbell. This big, tall guy. He made a goofy mistake, was wide open, and turned in the wrong way, and the ball went the other way. It was like an embarrassing, stupid move. But throughout preseason, he's made great plays. He's a big, tall, athletic, fast receiver. He reminds me of your guys' guy, Jack Thornton, is this Campbell guy. Luke Grimm, he's got this nickname, the Grim Reaper. Like to see some action from him.
That's a good nickname.
It's hell of a nickname. Let's see if you can carry with it. But honestly, I want to see this running game from these backups with this backup O-line and these running backs. I want to see who could take that third spot. Is it Haskins? Is it Sanders? we also have Miller Hines. It's Miller Hines, but I always knew him as Hines, right? He's on the roster, and then we have Kimani Vidal. Like I kind of mentioned, I don't really want to see Vidal anymore. I'm just these tiny running backs. I'm not a fan of. Like
I think Miller Hines should, go by Miller Highlight. Yeah, I think that'd be a funny nickname.
Right.
Right.
So I think in this last game, I just want to see some of these depth guys, some of these practice squad guys. I want to see some guys separate themselves, but at the same time, let's see some of these dudes that we drafted that haven't really done anything. Let's see if they can, put some highlights on tape. We'll see.
Right.
Though.
It's like Sacktown. I didn't see it. So Sacktown is one of my boys. He lives in Sacramento like me. We met up a couple times and we went to Bakersfield. And he said that everybody could be on. I was thinking, this week would have been down the shutdown week for the Raiders and not play your starters. Just let's see all the backups. Let's see who's going to be able to make this roster, who's not going to be able to make this roster.
All right, who wants to go next? So you got Cardinals, Richie, Broncos have Saints. Ooh, Jesus, you guys are going to poor Saints. Poor Saints don't know what's coming.
Too bad it wasn't the regular season, so that way you can give them a loss and get even a better draft pick.
That would be a self-fulfilling prophecy. In fairness, if that were to happen, part of you would then start to wonder, is that not a conflict of interest? Like you're literally trading a dude to a team that you're likely going to beat, and then you're getting a better draft pick because
of it. Yeah.
Anyways, there's a certain thing about that, right? But anyways, Jack, we're running lower on time, so let's try to condense our two teams here, and we'll go from there.
Yep, kick it off.
So I'm gonna go through real quick through my Denver Broncos. I really think that this is going to be another W for my team. I think our depth is very strong on the roster this year. I will disagree with you, DZ, in terms of Super Bowl and stuff, although your stat is correct that there has never really been a team that has made it to the Super Bowl that's won a Super Bowl rather by winning all 3 games in the preseason. I do think that there is room for an exception to that rule.
I hope you win. I hope you win all your preseason games.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Right.
But I think there's room for an exception to that rule if the team has been stacked sufficiently through the draft. Sure. and or through UDFAs and other things like that. Because in today's NFL, UDFAs have a better chance than ever to make a 53-man roster in what we're seeing. The drafts are more condensed, like back in the old days when, the old timers that are in the NFL Hall of Fame that we know and love, they had like a 9-round draft or something crazy?
Yeah, 9 or 10 rounds.
Yeah, 9 or 10 rounds. And so you had these huge drafts, and so you were less likely to make the roster as an undrafted free agent guy. Whereas in today's NFL, it is well known actually that, some of the better players are still around in UDFAs. They just, they weren't going to get drafted because they're from small schools, and there's a certain, we'll call it strategy, if you will, in the NFL when it comes to drafting or not drafting from certain small schools to see if they can slide in an even more cost-controlled guy even, in certain position groups. And there seems to be a whole method to the madness. So anyways, I think that there's room for a team in the modern age, like now, to be very stacked at depth and still make it and win a Super Bowl, because what we haven't seen is a really, really deep team through UDFAs and whatnot lose a guy, but then not actually drop in production. Typically what you see is when your starters go down, you see this huge precipitous drop in production. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you have a really deep roster, which in certain positions, not all, in certain positions, I think my Denver Broncos are very deep in certain position groups.
Yeah.
I think it makes it and lends itself well to maybe being an exception to the rule where there's certainly potential for us to go very deep into the playoffs with winning all 3 games in the preseason.
You said deep in the playoffs. That's one thing. Winning a Super Bowl is another thing.
And there's always the chance that if you go deep into the playoffs that you could very well win a Super Bowl. So I'm going to leave that open as a potential there as well.
I'm superstitious, so.
But anyways,
I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you.
But anyways,
to a point.
I see this. Yeah, I see this as a win for my Denver Broncos. I think our teams are it's a mismatch as far as I'm concerned. I have my own guys that I'm interested in seeing. I'm going to be kind of making some notes and all that kind of stuff. And then next week on the show is going to be a big one where we're going to be talking about the 53-man roster cut down because it had just happened the day before and all that sort of thing.
Will it be that? It will, huh?
Yeah, so we're on Wednesday. Roster cutdown is on the Tuesday. So next week's show, ladies and germs, is going to be a big one.
That is going to be a big one. Let's keep it short on the game. Let's talk about the roster cutdowns.
We're going to talk a lot more about the roster cutdowns and then the roster surprises, and so that'll be a big 53-man roster Wild Wild West edition right there on next week's show. So I have my own kind of guys that I'm interested in seeing. Just before I turn over to you, because I try to condense my review of the Saints game, I have two things I want to give a quick update on my Denver Broncos. Number one, DZ, you were an audience member at the time of the show when I was hyping this guy, and I want to know if you remember him from my comments. Back a little while back, there is a fullback that was on my Denver Broncos by the name of Adam Prentice. And I remember. Yeah, I was high on him, really high on him. Yeah. And unfortunately, my Denver Broncos moved on from Adam Prentice and opted to go to the tight end hybrid fullback role.
It seems to be the trend.
And Adam Prentice actually outplayed the Andrew Beck, who was the tight end who won that job back in the day. Funnily enough, you want to know the coach that poached that particular fullback that I really liked?
Kellen Moore?
Nope. None other than Sean Payton when he was with the Narland Saints.
Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're saying. Okay, wow.
And looky who my team brought back, Mr. Adam Prentice.
Did you really?
Back. Yes, we did. Brought him back in lieu of Mr. Burton's injury, who's going to be out for an extended period of time. He's a dark horse guy that I think you need to watch out for in this next preseason game. I think he's going to get quite a few looks. You got to remember, he's got an inside track. He knows this offense, generally speaking, inside out and backwards. And he was an absolute animal as a fullback. And he's only gotten better since his time with Sean Payton in New Orleans. And that's saying something given how high I was on him, even as a undrafted guy for my Denver Broncos back then. He's also a Colorado native, which means that he is going to be relatively well adapted to the light air, right? And so that will also be a tremendous benefit to him when he comes and joins the team. Last but not least, breaking news before the show. If there was a horn that I could play, I'd be playing it now. Yeah. My guy, the gentleman that I predicted for the 2024 draft to be selected by my Denver Broncos in our draft prediction, Devon Vele, he was just traded to the New Orleans Saints just before our show went live for a 2026, which is this upcoming year's draft, for a 4th-round draft pick and a 2027 7th-round draft pick. For those of you who don't remember or missed what I just said there, he was a 2024 7th-round draft pick for my Denver Broncos. Had a very good season in all fairness. He looked awesome as a rookie. But that is a stellar return on investment there. Frankly,
damn you, Richie. Damn your Broncos. That's such a steal.
Yeah.
That's such a steal. I mean,
that's what they call a Godfather deal. That's one of those, they made you an offer you can't refuse. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just like the answer to that is yes. Yes. And so it's a shame to see him
Why
go.
couldn't we have done that with QJ? Damn it.
Yeah. So
why couldn't we get like
Bailey
do that
was
for like Mumford
sure-handed.
or somebody?
Yeah, Bailey was sure-handed. He was always there. He always made his plays. He always was open. Generally speaking, he did. He was all around a great dude and a good wide receiver. I wish him all the best. But at the end of the day, when you have a logjam at wide receiver, that's a trade you make all day long.
Yeah,
100%.
So, Jack, over to you.
Well, for this week, again, I thought, for myself, I thought, the Raiders played, their starters in the first quarter going slightly into the second quarter. I didn't watch, again, I get off work and then when I get off work, I come on here. So, but Sacktown, again, my bro said that everybody's going to be ready to go. Everyone. I don't know if it's just saying, oh, everyone's ready to be able to go. Are they going to play everybody? I don't really need to see the starting offensive line. I might want to see a few players on the defensive line that are tweeners between the first and the second. And the same thing with the tweeners with, the quarterback or the cornerbacks. But I really don't need to see a ton of dudes. I do want to see Kappa if he's available, because just like Beckham, he's coming back and, he's working out kind of on the side, hasn't really got into the scrum of anything. So I don't know if they're going to play him, but I do want to see him because Mafi sucks ass, dog water, bye-bye. And so I do want to see Lockie Tossie. I mean, why not? Let the dude, give him as many reps as you can. I mean, he's looked good compared to everybody else on the second string who've been playing the same goddamn game since they're probably like 10 years old.
What a cool story if he makes it too, man.
He does. That's what I will say, one thing, after talking to Nav, on the side, we talked behind the scenes. I've gone on his show. He's been on our show as, my backup. It's like it reminds him of The Blind Side. It almost makes him want to watch that movie again, and just because that guy was just so flipping big, and just to see his story, this is what I'm seeing from him. And it all started from a burger joint in Australia. He's playing, rugby. He goes to a burger joint, and the guy there is like, I'll help you, just try to make any connections I can, as he ordered a burger. And this is where he's at right now. So I want to see him, but I really want to see Amari Gaynor. So I do want to see certain players, that are coming out to us. Like I said, Amari, one of my favorite linebackers on the squad. He is the only linebacker that I see as a coverage linebacker versus everybody else is a run stuffing linebacker. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't, after Sacktown said that. So that's what I'm excited about. And I was really happy that, again, missed 13 in the first game. That numbers drop. Penalties are still there. So that's still kind of a lot of penalties. I want to see that stuff cleaned up. I just want to see a cleaner game is all I'm looking for in this next game.
I think that is totally fair. You want to kind of see your team progress. That's all you really want from a preseason game, especially the last one. You want to see guys that you think might do well, and hopefully they can earn that 53-man roster spot to improve your team to kind of take that next step forward. But with that in mind, guys, we have had a longer show than normal today, but we are going to wrap it up there. And next week's show is going to be a big one about the roster. Okay, so 53-man roster will be our next week's show for sure. Come with your takes, your comments, and everything down below in advance of next week's show and the next preseason game. Leave your comments down below in the video and leave us a thumbs up so that we can reach other AFC West fans just like you. And if you have a certain someone that you think or may not want to see on your roster, also leave those comments down below in the video as well. And until next week, where the West Side's the best side. Peace!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.